Hey, AI Profit Partners, Coach Alicia here. Happy Tuesday. If you're in sales, you're not just a sales rep, right? You're also a coach. Let me explain the mindset shift and why it's critical. I recently had a sales call, and in this conversation, I had a prospect that told me no at first. Right? Not because they didn't need the solution. And I obviously had the conviction in understanding their objections and their pain points. I had the conviction that I knew our product was the right solution for them, right? But oftentimes when you're having these conversations or you're having these calls where you're pitching high ticket deals, sometimes you'll have clients that they don't believe in themselves or really can't visualize for themselves how to take their business to the next level, right? Okay. So the problem is that sometimes your prospect hit walls, they have doubts, they have fear, they have a lack of vision. They get stuck in the pain points and can't imagine change. But think of this. If all you're doing is pitching, okay, you'll hear no more often than you hear yes. Okay. Let me repeat that. You will hear no more often than you hear yeses. Here's what I want you to focus on. When you're in a sales conversation, your job is to, dig in the discovery and find out what they are needing. What are their pain points? What are their goals? What are they looking to do? What have they tried? There's a number of different things that you want to find out in the discovery, right? Okay. Most sales reps focus on transitions, and most sales folks talk way too much within that call and are really just pitching what they can do for the client. A coach, when you're in that sales call, here's where you turn that cap. You go from salesperson to coach. You focus on transformation. You want to sell them the dream vacation. So if I am a rep, I am going to sell you the dream vacation. What that would look like is that, hey, Mrs. Smith, you're going to go on this vacation. You're going to take a flight. You're going to end up at the hotel. You're going to have a couple excursions. Right? Versus if you're a coach, you focus on that transformation. You focus on, imagine yourself laying on that beach. You have a drink in hand. You have someone coming to serve you food. You have a beautiful ocean, and you are just going to feel so relaxed and so at ease. And you're going to spend 7 days in just pure bliss on that ocean, right? On the beach, right? So you're going to listen deeply to objections, right? Understand their pain points. So not just surface level, but you're really going to find out where they are stuck. You're going to guide them towards clarity instead of pushing them. Okay? So get clarity. Right? And these are a few tips I just want to recommend to you. You can share stories. You can share that why a prospect that you once worked with was struggling in their business. They even said they couldn't afford it. But here's where you, as a coach, you get them to think much bigger, much broader, much down the road, future pace them, right? Again, show them that vision, show them that goal. And sometimes you have to, if you have that conviction in what you're selling, you have to show them, lend them that belief system, right? Lend them that belief system so where you can get them to see that bigger picture of their next level. Okay. Key takeaways, sales isn't just about closing deals. It's about coaching people through their fears, their doubts, and their limitations. Okay. When you embody the coach mindset, you don't just make sales, you make impact. And ultimately, guys, that's what we're about. We're about making impact, where it's about having conviction that we can help others solve their problems and help them get to that next level. Because most people, they're not giving you objection because maybe your product isn't right. It's because sometimes they have limiting beliefs. And we all know what limiting beliefs can do to us. And so again, this is your job. When you hop in, you're not just a salesperson, you are a coach, and you're going to coach them through. You're going to ask those questions. And some of those questions may be, tough questions. You're not being pushy. You're not being an individual or a salesperson that is belittling them, but you are asking the hard questions to get them to make that decision that they're probably fearful of. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you're in a call And in the discovery, you discover that this client is really hurting for money. They may not be able to make payroll, or they may be sometimes shutting down that business. So they're really struggling in their business. And you go to make the pitch and they say, I don't think I can afford this. This is just way out of my budget, right? So instead of pushing back, have empathy. Again, you understood, you want to create that trust. What if you said something like this? What would it mean for you if this problem was solved? Okay, and then shut up. Let them think about it. Okay. Don't just, go on to the next question. Really allow something like that to sink in, because once you pose that question, that individual is thinking of all the ways that they're struggling right now. And what would it mean for them to not have this problem solved? We know they're either going to go out of business, they're going to be able to make payroll. There's a number of things, right? Okay. And then you'll see them thinking. They'll say something back, right? And then you pose a question. What's the cost of staying where you are? That's a powerful one. What's the cost of staying where you are? And you shut up. You let them think. They're going to think, dang, if I stay where I am, here's what's going to happen. I love this business, but I'm going to end up having to shut it down, right? And that is coaching. That steers the conversation. It helps them reframe and move forward, because you're asking questions that are really getting them to think, not just about being fearful or having doubt. It's really getting them to think future, right? And main thing I want you guys to really understand in sales, it's just not about closing deals. It's about coaching people through their fears, their doubts, their limitations. And when you embody the coach mindset, you don't just make sales, you make impact and you make transformation. And transformation, remember, is selling the dream vacation. It's not just pitching everything about your service that you can do for them. It's really showing an individual, walking them through, asking the hard questions to get them to make change on that call. Okay. Guys, thanks so much. And I really want to heavily impress upon you, if you are doing sales and you are struggling, keep working at your framework, keep understanding and digging in the discovery, because if you're pitching high ticket sales and above, you really want to be smooth and really understand and help people, because when you're nervous in a sales call, people can feel that energy. So you want to be in a place of strong conviction. You want to be a place where you have the confidence to speak and ask the question, and sometimes ask the hard questions and lead them in a coaching session and not just a sales pitch. But you guys can do this. I look forward to hearing your guys' thoughts. You have a good one. Bye-bye.